Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Good Servant Show, where Jesus is the center of my worship and creator of all days. Oh, what a good day it is. I feel like everything gets resolved, you know? Let me turn off this music. And, it's like, well, it's not like, it is, at the point where, there really is nothing to do except follow what the Spirit is leading us to do, you know? And what's great is only doing what I'm led to do by the Spirit. And sometimes it could cause some miscommunication because of just how serious it is, right? Like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Are you doing this or the Spirit? Don't do this and let the Spirit do this. I'm like, oh no, I'm only doing this because I'm led by the Spirit, you know? And there might be a little miscommunication because of how serious and real it is, right? Things you're led to do, things that you can't do, that only God can do, that only the Spirit can do. And so sometimes that gets confusing to say, but definitely not confusing. It makes everything a lot simpler internally, and it feels good when right. Well, yeah, you don't want to do anything for selfish reasons. Good point, Shannon. Exactly. If anything's going to be done, you want it to be done in line with the Spirit. And really, it's not really you doing it at all. It's just the Spirit kind of like the Spirit kind of doing it when the other person or when you allow it. When you are ready to have it done, it will be done, and it's perfect. It's just such a symbiotic dance, right? It's perfect. All right, so I'm going to bring Jake and Stephanie on. Let me bring Jake on first. Good morning, Jake. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Buenos dias. I'm doing good, brother. Doing good. How you
Hola,
doing?
hermano. Hola,
Yeah,
mi hermano.
¿cómo está? ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo va
Not
todo?
really. Not really. I
¿Entiendes lo
don't
que
know
estoy
anymore,
diciendo?
Shannon.
Yeah. That's when you
Yeah.
go, ¿qué? ¿Qué?
¿Qué?
Yeah.
¿Qué?
Okay.
Mira? All
That's
right.
right. Yeah.
All right. Let me bring Stephanie on.
Yeah.
Hello, Stephanie. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today? She's on mute.
Oh
Oh,
no.
what?
Oh, did she
She
just like drop
ghosted
right
us.
out or something?
She straight up ghosted us, man.
Oh no.
She's like, oh, okay,
She'll
I'm
be
gonna
right back.
I'm gonna go on, and then poof.
She's like, I'm gonna go to a channel that speaks English. I'm out of here.
Right. She's like, what is this all about? I
Yeah.
thought I
It's
was
like
on the Good
this,
Servant show.
I know, we're talking about being led by the Spirit. Now we're talking in Spanish.
Yeah. Oh man,
Oh man.
I feel so good, man. I feel like not like I don't know how to explain the good feeling. If I feel right, that's what I feel. I
Yes.
feel right, and I'm just happy
So,
about that.
it's like just centering things just back on God, because it's all about Him, and we know that, and it's just about our hearts and looking to Him, all of us, and it just we can make it so complicated, and it's just so funny how that works. And we start talking about all these things, we get in this topic, and our heads are in the books. It's like, oh my gosh, Lord, it's just all about you. And we just let go
Yeah,
of all that and just let the Spirit do its work, and just let Him be true and every
right.
man a liar. Let God be true and every man a liar. And that's why I was just reflecting on that verse, like He leadeth us beside still waters, in Psalm 23, because sometimes, like, it does get turbulent, things can get a little tough, difficult, whatever, like the storm and the waves, but when He shows up and He speaks, it's like, oh my gosh, it restores your soul. It just calms you, like, wow, like He is meek, lowly in heart. He is gentle. So good, and when you just taste that, when He shows up in just a powerful way, like that, it's just, It's like none other.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Let me bring Stephanie on the show. Hello, Stephanie. Welcome to the show.
Hey, morning, guys.
Hola, hermana.
Hi.
Hola,
Good morning.
hermana.
Yay.
Oh,
I
So,
went to
go ahead.
Costa Rica for. Oh no, I went to
Oh, you
Costa
did? You
Rica
went
for
to
a little
Costa
bit. So I was like,
Rica. Okay.
I picked up some, and like a long time ago, I used to want to be a Spanish teacher, but like it's like I'm the ultimate gringo though, because you forget so much of it over time now,
I'm
and
the
this
ultimate
is like back
gringo.
this is back in high school, so
That
oh man,
is
but
great, man.
yeah,
Well, it's hard for me to like. I don't want to admit this, but I do know some Spanish, but it's like mostly just like how to ask for drugs or like meet a girl or something like that. It's nothing is it's not good stuff. But being in
yeah.
California, it's kind of like you have to kind of get some Mexicali kind of language going in some places,
Mm,
It's a
yeah,
little
yeah.
weird.
get the
I took
Yeah,
like
Mexicali
five
voice.
years of Spanish in school, but then like you realize that what they teach you and how they speak is so different.
so
And like
different.
they
Yeah,
yeah, they can't even understand you. Like
Yeah,
it's so funny.
right.
yeah.
I
They teach
know.
you like proper
So
Spanish,
Yeah,
like
and nobody
proper. Yeah,
speaks that way.
I know.
yeah.
Well,
Nobody
it'd be like
speaks out.
same thing. Like in school, they say "Good evening, sir." That's what you'd say. And then, but as soon as somebody says "What's up, man?" they're like, "Wait, what? I didn't learn those words. What's that mean? What's up,
Yeah,
man? Wait,
what's
hold
up,
on.
man?
Oh,
Right,
right.
right,
Wait, what's
right.
that now? Wait, wait. And you're looking up to the sky. What is up? Well, let's see. Clouds are up. Let's see. What else? What's that guy
Right,
saying?
right.
you know.
Very good point. Very good
uh,
point.
that's funny.
Oh yeah, she said I learned French in high school, then never used it. Well, you were so Shannon was a linguist, right? So she went to the Air Force, right, to learn a language, and I wonder why you didn't just go to French. Like, why didn't you just learn French in the in the service? And then that's weird, huh? How she like learned French in high school or whatever, and then went and learned something else in the service. That's
Mm,
crazy.
Yeah, I used to think that stuff was so important. Like I even wanted my daughters to be like bilingual. It's so it's so weird. It's
Right.
just, it does none of that. It doesn't matter.
Well, so you know what
I
really
know if we
like
like approached somebody that like didn't speak what we did, like it shows in the Bible that, we could speak their language too. So the only reason we
well,
need it is to, preach the gospel and he'll help us.
well, you know what really
oh,
helped me with my faith a lot was because I was like getting kind of like sucked into these rabbit holes with like the zeitgeist stuff and stuff with other religions having a Christ figure and things like that, right? And and some of them predating Christianity, right? And so it wasn't until I seen a really good teaching about the Tower of Babel and how when God separated everybody and separated our languages, right? That there was a story of a coming Messiah in almost every language,
mm,
and
That
so
is so
like,
amazing.
isn't it
yeah.
That gave me
unbelievable?
chills. I know. I know it's really cool. Was it you who was talking about like, like that's the first conspiracy? I wasn't even on the show. I think I
Yeah,
was listening to one. I
right,
was like
exactly,
it just opened
exactly,
my eyes because like I was like, that's so true because there are those people that I mean the Bible tells us this is, Satan's world and everything. So we already know it's just how it's weird how we can actually somebody can say they believe in the Bible and then still be blinded because if you believe the Bible, then you have to just know because it tells us that this is Satan's world, that he's the God of this world. And then there's
right,
also that is a conspiracy in the Bible,
yeah.
but it's easy to read stuff like that and be like, oh, it's just a story. But no, that really happened. Like
In fact,
they
that's
were
all conspiracies are connected to that conspiracy. It's
it
all
really it's
about
all one and the
Is it
same.
to the
Right.
Tower of
yeah.
Babel or connected to?
No, to bring Babylon back
Yeah, to
together
bring
again.
Babylon. Yeah, it's all about like trying to defeat
Oh,
God. Like it's all one and the same. This is all
I
like,
see what you're
you
saying.
know, isn't
Yeah.
that
Okay.
crazy?
That
Because
yeah. Interesting.
well,
That's
once you get out of
yeah.
the
Huh.
yeah, because once you get out of the well, it's not about this, because like I said, I knew about conspiracies for a long time. But at first I really just thought it was all about like money and power until I realized
Yeah.
like, well, I think it was just God that kind of lifts the scales and shows this is evil and good, But It's
Right.
Yeah.
it's
I used to
weird
think
because
it was
really,
all money too, like follow the money, right? But some things
yeah.
didn't make sense, and I was like, oh wait, there's some people that don't even care about the money. Like,
Well, yeah, and
this
they
is
have so
deeper than
much
that.
they don't need it. Like some of them have more. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I don't know, but that's when you realize, okay, well then it's about power. Then you realize like they're trying to actually like depopulate and all these things that seem so scary without God. You're just like that is
yeah,
just pure evil. And then you're like, oh wow, they actually like truly are evil. Like they're with Satan.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it's crazy.
That's
That's hard to
incredible. Yeah,
believe, isn't it? You know,
It,
that there's people that are evil like that.
like
You're
that
like,
kind of
what?
evil.
Yeah.
but I think they're convinced that they're
Wow.
good. You know, I don't know. I think like they
It's
think
like
they're
Almost
doing
like
it
how
good.
Paul
the
was.
well the
You mean like
it's
almost?
interesting how like in Jude it says what they do naturally as brute beasts. Like in other words, like they do it naturally because that's just who they are. Like they are tares, they are darkness. They don't have like light in
Yeah,
them or love in them. They don't have God because God is love. So like if you don't have love, there's no empathy, there's no love, there's no light. Like so they don't see the difference just because that literally is just what they are. Like it is darkness incarnate, so to speak, if you had to put it
right. It's
that
one
way,
of
I
those
guess.
things like, do we want to know like why they do what they do? Because like
Yeah.
really, if you think about that, like that's like, well, I want to understand how evil works, and I don't. I'm glad
I
I
don't think
I'm
we
glad
ever
I
Right.
don't
can.
get it. You know?
Yeah.
We'd have not have God in us to probably fully know, So praise God we don't.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
right.
So it's like,
I guess the only curiosity, right, is that I know what I'm capable of doing in my own heart and my own spirit, right? And it baffles me to know that there's someone capable of doing somebody wrong and not feel like not feeling bad about it, and like, I wouldn't be able to live with myself, if you know what I mean. Like
yeah,
even if I like had a day where still owe somebody an apology, right? I'll toss and turn all night, right? Oh, I forgot to say I'm sorry to that person, and round that off, like why didn't I do
yes,
that, And
right.
I don't know. And there's people
No,
out there killing people.
you can't stand the thought of like somebody in like discomfort or pain or like especially like from something you might have done, that you didn't mean to intend to or something or
Absolutely.
whatever. It just drives you. You can't even like you just like want to blow up and tell you that's like the only thing you're gonna resolve. The only thing you're gonna want to do is resolve that until you can even relax or breathe.
Yeah, but the
Um,
Oh,
enemy uses that heart, like that good heart where we care for people, and he'll try to do that because there's no fruit in worrying about that. You know, like
right.
worry, what does it bring to the day? So we just have to trust in God in those moments. Like you're like, okay, I'll let them know tomorrow. I know the Lord will handle this. You know,
And you're
because
right about that, because the enemy has used that like against me, right? Where
right,
I mean, it would just eat up huge chunks of my time. People just using up all my time, and I know they knew what they were doing then, and I like in hindsight, I get it now. But like at the time, I really thought everyone had like good intentions. And I was so deceived, even in my like middle adulthood, even in like a drug world, right, where you would think that I would know some kind of evil, right? I still was getting like taken advantage of, like not knowing like what was going on. It's embarrassing.
hmm. That's you know what though, it's like it's incredible because it ended up being your testimony, and like,
Yeah,
it ended up equipping you. It was training, and that's like the beautiful part of it, Where like we know there's no regrets, but instead like now you have wisdom from that, which is so priceless because I think that's like in like the wise bride, the 10 wise virgins, like the five that have oil and the five that didn't. Like you can't buy like wisdom. You can't. You have to. It's gained from experience from the living God, from like our testimony, so it's so invaluable. And that's why I think and we get that from the trials that like God takes us through, that he allows us to live through, because when you come on the other side, it's like, oh my gosh, now you have clairvoyance on it. You have clarity, like I see now, wow, because you really went through it
yeah,
and lived it, and so it's like it's a part of you, but now you have the truth with it.
yeah. No, absolutely.
I know that's everything too. Because before, even if you're kind or doing these things without the truth in it, we don't really know why we're doing it. Like the motives will probably stay. Well, they had to be still off because the fall. Like up until it changes your heart, it's it's connected to something that we're doing for ourselves, or just it's not for God, for love. So he still has to like retrain us to be searching and seeking him and then doing things for him, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is one thing that it was strange to me, right? Is I've like run into people that have like if like people that have treated them good, they they instantly think there's something like something against them in there hidden somewhere, like well what do you want, like what are you offering, and then the people that treat them bad they treat good, and it's just it was odd, it's always been odd to me, right? Like why would you treat the people that treat you horrible really good, but if they are a terror just inside, right, and that's what they are at that moment, they just do what they do out of what they know how to do, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I can't think of it as any other way than that. It's just whatever's in your heart you do, right?
Well, yeah, when it's hardened like that, you kind of, okay, you know how you thought everybody was the same way you were, right? So that's,
Yeah.
it's almost this like egotistical thing that we all think that. It's really weird if you think about it. Like, it's kind of gross to just assume everyone's like you. But
Right. Yeah.
it's, he made us all so uniquely different. But so I think there's some people that are so hardened that when somebody's nice, they think it's fake or they're out to get something, you know? So the person that is like them, they treat them that way because they think they're being real because in their mind they're real, you know, when really their heart was just hardened from the world, you know. So like they don't
Right.
like people, they think everybody's a lie, you know, and we aren't really supposed to just trust people. But once we trust God, we realize that, you know, he needs
Yeah.
people to for love and you know, we it's just so sad because we really are broken. We have to have God to repair all that stuff.
I think God kind of talks about like the reprobate mind, like in Romans 1, like towards the end when he says like like they have a reprobate mind, like they're being filled with all like unrighteousness, like backbiters, haters of God. They hold the truth and pervert it. But then it says like at the end that they don't only do unrighteousness, but they have pleasure in doing it. Like being
Right.
unmerciful, like all these things, like they actually have pleasure in doing it, which is kind of like what we're talking about, like evil and terrorists, which is where we don't comprehend that. We could, there's no way we could do, if a saint is doing unrighteous, there's going to be, oh my gosh, there's going to be conviction, guilt, pleasure in that.
Right.
Yeah, it is bondage. And so,
Absolutely.
a total opposite of just doing it with sitting there, licking your chops while you're lying to people and stealing or whatever. Like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine that.
Oh,
It was on my heart right before this show to talk about reprobate, the reprobate mind. It's weird how you brought it up, Jake. It's pretty
Mm,
awesome.
mm,
yeah, it's just weird
yeah,
too because we were also fallen and we did horrible things, right? But because I didn't get joy out of doing these things. I was evil. I was bad. I did these bad things, but there was still that part of me. That's why we have to lie to ourselves and we turn ourselves into the victim just naturally because that's the only way we can justify doing those things. So we don't get pleasure out of doing bad, but also then we start to lie to ourselves, and that's why God has so much work to do because we're so deceived in just who we are, and we make everybody else the bad guy in order to justify all the things that we did. Otherwise, we would just be like, we would really out of bed because we would just see ourselves for who we are. But before God. But when he's calling you and then you see that, it's perfect timing because he fixes it.
Right, and it is weird, like, cause like that is what it is, right? We flip it around to be the victim, like, oh, people are doing me wrong,
Yeah,
and that's why I have to be this way. I have to be rough,
right. Right. It's all just like a self
justifying all
deception.
that.
Right. And it's so weird because, literally, how loving is he that when you realize that all these things you did, like you finally actually see the truth of who you are and you don't break in that because the whole reason we have to lie to ourselves is so we can get up and we can look at ourselves in the mirror, right? But he's
Yeah,
so loving that while he's showing you just how horrible you are, like you just know it's going to be okay. Like, because even when it all happened, I didn't realize like, the Holy Spirit was going to come in and change all that. I didn't know I was going to get a new heart, but I did know it was going to be okay, you know? And like, he's just so much, he's so loving. So even when he's like showing you these things, just the amount of love in him is, I cannot wait to be with him. I really can't. Hey, Jake.
sorry, yeah, sorry, I kind of dropped out there for a second, so I missed some of that, so I didn't know where to quite. Yeah, so I'm sure I'll sync with you guys here in a second once I realize where you guys are at. But
yeah.
uh,
but it's good how God shows us, like, who we are, and like where we're at
Right. But if it wasn't
those
his
moments.
time, that's what I mean. Because those are
Yeah,
things we block out our whole lives. So when we actually see it, it's his timing and we don't break. Because if we do it, like if we have that realization before, really it would be breaking. But when he's the one showing you, even though it's horrible, you know it's going to be okay. Because we spend our whole lives putting up this, like, just a shield, just blocking yourselves, making yourself the victim, making everybody else the enemy. And then you realize, no, really, you are this person. Like, they're you're not a victim. You've done all these bad things, and it doesn't break us. Like it's amazing. Like that's his love coming through right then. So like you're in so much sorrow from it, but at the same time you're filled with hope, and that's only through God.
right. Well, I mean, like what's great about it, right, is like being shown, right, well, or knowing that you have these like issues, right. Like I knew that there was problems with my own character over and over and over again, but I never had the power to change it, or didn't change it. Like was aware of it and didn't change it, and always wanted it to be changed, right. And it wasn't until God started changing the stuff for me that like I was like, wow, like why didn't I do that the whole time? It's because I didn't never had the power to do that. Like if I had the
Yes.
power to do it, I would have changed it.
Oh, I
Mhm.
love what you just said right there because it's like you're like, and that ties in so perfectly with the, like because before we come to God and we might just be swamped in all these problems or trapped in ourselves or whatever it is, like somewhere between that, like it is easy to kind of be the victim because you're just like, oh my gosh, how do I get out of this? What am I doing? Whatever the case. But then when you come to God and you realize the authority of the word, it's like now there's like joy when you see these things because like not only is he pruning it out of you, but if he's showing you something, it's because he's going to get rid of it, and the word will, and you realize, oh my gosh, there's a way. And if he commands me like to not be worried, if he commands me to not be anxious, if he commands me to fear not, then that means that is possible to do. So wow. So instead of like being the victim, it's like, oh my gosh, this I get to overcome this. So it's like, although I can see these things inside of me, I can examine myself. I don't look at it in like anguish and torment. Oh man, I'm to the victim. It's like, wow, okay, yes, okay, the light shine on this fire. I'm going to walk in faith and let's see how God, I watch God's mighty hand rip this out of my heart, and
Right.
purge us and cleanse us. So that's where it's like can be a joyful thing because it's impossible with us, but with God, all things are possible. Where
Right.
we're victors, not victims. And so like
And
literally
when he's
his
showing
word
you,
is, yeah,
yeah, like
and
like it's gonna be
it's
removed.
not
Like you just
hopeless.
know.
It is
Yeah.
not hopeless.
Yeah.
And I
Like it's
think,
exciting.
we can,
Like he'll like there's something you didn't see and like it really is exciting. You're like, oh my goodness, that means he's about
yes.
to like he's gonna get rid of this.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Like if it's something you're actually conscious of and you see it, that's him bringing it to your attention. And that is a
Right.
good thing. Like, well, okay, I see this now. Now I need to pray about this. Let's walk and walk in that. Because what the enemy wants us to be is like to see it and then to feel weighed down, to feel overly burdened, or to feel like we're never going to get out trapped, or whatever the case, or whatever he tries to do to get you. Which is the total opposite, because he knows the second we stand in the authority of the word and just walk in faith, there is just true deliverance in that, and just the way he's purging us.
Oh, I think what you're saying, Michael, is like instead of focusing on our sins, because the sins, I mean, Jesus defeated the sins. And when we wake up thinking about our sins and like what we don't want to do, our mind is so on that that's kind of what comes out. Like it's in our eyes are a lamp of our body. And so that's what's in our heart. And the sin manifests because, and then we're just, as soon as we mess up, we're just failing this test that he didn't give us. So instead you wake up and you just believe his words, you believe what he says, and you don't think about those things. And as you put your trust in him, then your faith is there and he's able to, by your faith, he's able to, with his grace, he's able to transform you. So you start to believe, you start to say, okay, I don't see this in me, but you tell me that you look at me and I'm holy, righteous, and blameless. And you believe him over your thoughts and all the things that you do, you're his. And when you focus on him, he's the light of the world. That light will shine in you. And he get his grace just manifests that in you.
Mm.
I love how you said that. Here's a question from Clutch. I don't know if you can see it.
But can you read it,
I can
Stephen?
read it. Sure, it says,
Yeah.
why do we have to be powerless sheep? I'm not saying I can do everything and don't need God's help, but he helps those who help themselves. He wants strong people. If
It's
he
so
if he
funny.
take
I You hear that your whole
Go ahead.
lives, right? God helps those who help themselves. That's nowhere in the Bible. I knew that and I wasn't even in a religious family. Like that's such a worldly saying. Like the truth is, it's actually the opposite. You know, it's when you stop trying to help yourself that he takes control. You know, and so it's just one of those things you hear, and that's not even how it works. It's once I gave up control, that's when he came in and he empowers us. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a lot of things, right, that I used to think about God, right, the impression I had about God, was way different before I read the Bible. You know, a lot of it was, God is somehow going to help me do, like achieve like things in this life, like get a home, get a car, right? Like as if this life was, the priority,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I used to have this belief that if I do good, I get good. If I do bad, I get bad. And it's not like that at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not
And
like
even
that
like
at
Yeah.
all.
right. And I'm glad Coach said that because I remember hearing that and then like it's actually the opposite. And so you think that like, well, I've got to start this and it's really just deceitful. But not only that, like, you know, this is what's so beautiful is like yeah, it's not like we don't need to learn a lesson. It's about changing who we are. So he's so loving. He doesn't just come and just take something from us, right? Like he literally, that's what all these trials and everything for. Like and that's why he's so loving and he's such a great father because we know he could just come and just grab them from us. We know that,
Well,
right? But
yeah.
like, but he doesn't because instead he shows us like he puts us through that and he lets us see exactly like what we're doing. And then when we give it to him with
It's not
him.
what did I
He,
accomplish? What did God accomplish through
what did
me?
God accomplish
By
through
me
me? Yeah,
surrendering to me. Because like
exactly.
that's where
There's
we
pride
recognize
and
we need
ego
a
that he has
savior.
to get rid of.
And
Yeah,
if
because I
there's
don't.
something, it's like coming to the grace of the cross. Which is why like we recognize I am in need of a savior. If I was able to help myself, then why would I even need God? If I
You wouldn't.
believe that. And
Yeah,
and I think that is like the point of like recognizing the cross and coming to a savior like, oh my gosh, wow, like I need you, and
I
that's
did
like that
things
full
like
surrender.
right in the world. Like I did things on my own. There was accomplishments. There's all these things, but when you look back, it doesn't matter how good it was or anything. When you look back from before, there was the motive was always off. So when he shows you that, and then you realize that he used you as a vessel to accomplish something that's out of like pure love, that's amazing. I don't ever like
Mhm.
that's why it's not even because it's not about us. Like it's literally not about us at all. Like when we are weak, he is strong. And that is all glory to God and that is for his glory. So I want to increase. I want him to decrease. I want less of me as possible. And that thinking that we need to be this or that, that's just our own ego that needs to be. It needs to just it's from the fall. It's not from him. And so
Exactly.
I love that God can use me. Like that's so much cooler than saying, "Oh, I did this." Like, wow, God worked through
Right.
me.
Lest you
Like
should
the
boast,
creator of
right?
the universe was able to work through me. That is so beautiful and that brings life and that brings joy rather than by my own strength.
And it
You know,
brings
that's
glory to God, which is the most
that's
important.
exactly what it's for, right? All
Yes, for his
glory to
name's
God.
sake.
Yeah.
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 And see, like early in the show, like early in episodes of the show, I remember that like I would feel the spirit working through me, but then things would come up where I would try to get involved and fix, like, oh, if I fix that and fix that and fix that, then everything will be good. But I was getting involved, like getting in the way, right? And AJ Blunt, right? He's was a guy that used to come here all the time, right? And he was like, hey, look, you need to let the Lord guide your steps. Like, don't, even if you think you're being a mover and a shaker and ahead of that, like you're only causing problems. Like get out of the way and just let God guide your steps. Let him work through you, and that's the only way it will work. It can't work any other way. And I'm grateful that he told me that. I'm grateful that he
Yeah.
told me.
I love that. Because as soon as like if the enemy can get you in a spot where I am confident in my ability, like then it's somewhere in between that you can work in your own strength and then you can boast of what you have done. And it'll probably work for a while, which the enemy wants it to do, so you're confident in that, but
Well,
but
what's
there's something
Yeah.
crazy
so
is
incredible that
like
happens like
He'll let you do that. That way you don't
right.
see God.
Well, what's
He
crazy
doesn't want us to.
yeah,
What's crazy is at
right.
first, right, when I started to be good at certain things, right, that I wasn't good at before, I actually like convinced myself that it was me, I'm good at this now. Like I just somehow have like a natural gift for this or that, you know. And then when it would be a big mistake because I would go a little out of bounds, you know, with it. And I'm like, oh no, like so, like it was hard for me to figure out what was going on until I really realized that okay, I just need to like calm down, let God do the work, and then try to get out of the way because I can only make things worse. I don't have the skills or ability to do anything, right? Like if it's something I didn't know before, it's all God, you know. And even then, it was all God, right? So like it's very humbling. It's hard to. Sometimes it's tricky, right? Sometimes you want to lie to yourself, you know, and that fight is against the flesh too, you know. So
Yeah, I did that for way too long. I did it for 35 years, and I
hmm,
don't look back because I know it was his time, but I will not do that for another second. Like there's every second, every minute, I want it to be about him, for him. You know,
yes,
I spent so much time about myself, and it didn't get me anywhere. You know, it didn't get me anywhere.
And I think that's the beauty of it. Like, when we do come to that surrender and that meekness and that submission, like, oh my gosh, when I'm weak, he is strong, greater he that is new than he that is in the world. And the thing is yes, there are things in us that is good, and that comes from him. There are gifts that we have, there are talents that we have, we're each given talents, right? Like the parable of the talents, but we begin to recognize that through submitting to him, and when that and he will bring that to light, and it's what he is building in us as he's giving us that new identity as we're living up to that new name. And so when we recognize that and we walk in that, it's something that he gave to us, something that he is building inside of us. Less we should be able to boast in ourselves, in our own ability, or whatever that is. But through submitting to him, it's like, which is like like what we're saying, it gives even God more glory. And I want to, gosh, Stephanie, do you remember what I texted you last night from Corinthians, that one about Paul, like uh, when he went to preach to him? I think it was like Second Corinthians 3 or something. Like when he went to go preach, like he was not there like in wise and wisdom, like this man that came like he knew it all to
Yeah,
pump people up in a speech and acting like, look, this is you're gonna be able to, like having all the answers, right? Have looking like the man, or no, he came in weakness, in meekness, in fear, in trembling, like talking so that the power
right.
of God would work through them, so
right.
that the spirit, so that the power of God, not us having all this worldly wisdom and all this self-help knowledge, or whatever that looks like,
Yeah, it
and
gets
I
in
know.
the
Think
way,
about everything
really.
Abraham did. Abraham, like, would you consider him meek? Literally, the Lord called him meek. He was meek. And look at everything he accomplished. That's not weak. The world turns that into the word weak. It's
That's
not.
right. That's
Abraham,
right.
Noah, like all these people, they were meek. There was meekness, and that's just so beautiful. I,
yes, even like look
it's
at
kind of funny you
Daniel,
said that because
like
that's what I always prayed for. I was like, for meekness, like for my children, and just because in the world I was, all these fake personas that I I didn't, once I realized I didn't like, as a woman, being loud and considered funny. Like, of course, I want the opposite of that. I want meek and loving and tender, and it all, but that all is part of the spirit. So we don't have to ask for these individual qualities, but he shows us those are actually, that's what's good, you know? And of course,
Yeah.
like everyone, like the world loves you when you're like that because you are the world. But once you're not in the world, you see what that really is, and you don't want any part of it.
Right, right. The world tries to like tame us into these characters, you know. It's
Yeah.
really horrific. I mean,
yeah,
like I feel sorry for people
program.
because like when I go to like the hospital or whatever here, and I don't go out much, so of course I always say I'm going to the hospital, so it's like
You
my
go to the
first
hospital a
day out.
lot. I
Right,
know.
right, right. So I go to the hospital, right, and it's like I'm in the waiting room, right, and it's like people just repeating like whatever they heard on the news, and like just
Yeah.
repeating like somebody, like they hear somebody that they like, and like they just repeat it like it's their own original point, and then
Yeah.
they just argue about what was on the news or whatever. I mean, it's just
Right.
insane, right?
And they
It's
I
don't
like
realize
know.
it's not even their stance. They just like
they
that
don't
image
You
on
know,
realize
TikTok.
it.
I think that's what grieves my
Yeah.
heart the most. Like when you see them talking, and they're talking as if it's their own unique opinion, and like
Yeah,
but really it is not. That's what's sad, is it's actually a manufactured. It's so manufactured and designed for them to think that way, and they don't realize that they're being funneled into that, by the programming. They have no idea
right.
that that's exactly what they wanted to be talking about, and gossip amongst themselves about all sorts of different things. Whether it be talking about Johnny Depp or Will Smith, it's like, You know, and
Right.
I don't even want to mention those names, but I'm just bringing that up in the
Right.
context of this
So
example, you know,
fake, you
and I'm
know?
not, you know, and who, you know, God knows their hearts. And so I'm not
That is
talking
so
about them
random.
in a good or bad way. But what
Johnny
Right.
I'm trying to
Depp,
say,
he's
like,
like from like
that,
the 80s. Why did you think of him? That's so random.
No, because
well,
he's
I guess
in
he's,
trial now. He's in doing a trial
Oh,
or something. Yeah.
for
oh,
what?
yeah,
No, it doesn't matter. Okay, okay. I don't know what.
Hey,
bring up
hey,
this random name.
to be honest, is like evil as those people are, he looks great for 58, you know? I'll give him that.
Something very
Anyway, go
true.
ahead. Go ahead. Crickets. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jay.
Because they're
No,
so creepy. They really are. Like it's weird because at
Yeah.
one point you look at them and you like idolize them, and then after it's I
You're
can't
like,
even I
ooh,
couldn't
they're
even look at
weird
him and see
looking.
that. I look at them and
Yeah.
see evil.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
It is. I know.
And
It's
honestly, I was thinking,
it's,
well, it might be because of things that they drink. Like it's
yes.
like
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
you know, it's like
They're gross.
underneath, like, and I think this is what's so like deceptive from the enemy, because underneath he knows, like deep down, yeah, people, you know, like we know who the truth is. That is Jesus, you know, and like the world, of course, like there's just so much disarray out there. With like, oh gosh, what is the truth? It's science. It's this. It's that. You know, there's
Right. All these different
all these things,
paths,
and so it's like
right?
everybody just
Yeah.
wants to be able to just grasp on something and hold it, and is just so ready to find whatever that answer is and go full force into it. You know, which is exactly what, so
Right.
that's going to lead up to that Antichrist. Is building up to that
And they
moment.
do
So
it
like,
like
okay,
in a
finally,
but Jake, they do it like in this scholarly way, like, oh yes, like I know that all lines are curved and blah blah blah. It's math is the whole thing, you know, like, and it's like you're like,
yeah,
what are you talking about, man? Like this is the like, look at reality. Look what reality is telling us. Like, why are we
yeah,
going off in all these
but
different
people are,
poor
think about it
people?
though, people are searching, you know, think about it, like whether it be about UFO topics or Bigfoot, or even getting tapped into all these drama stories, you know, on the news or Kardashians, whatever, you know, it shows that people have some sort of there's a desire, they're looking for something because they know they're not whole, something is missing, and they don't really probably know exactly why they're doing it themselves, but trying to have that plain land, like you said yesterday, you know, like, okay, you know, that's why, like, Jesus says, you know, like, I am the shepherd, you know, he is the good shepherd, I shall not want. You know, search and you shall find, or seek and you shall find. You know, so we're not looking, we're not searching, we don't need to fill our hearts and all these things, because we already know we have the answer, we have the truth. But there's just so much disarray out there from the enemy to keep people searching, to keep people wanting, and just tapping into their desires, and that's just where it's you know, they're being funneled into that, and it's like you said, yeah, nothing is original. It is not. You know, all the
Nothing.
acting, all the emotions, all the reactions, it's just all by design. You know, it's like the grand
Yeah,
MKU thing, you know, on a grand scale,
it
basically.
is.
But
That's
that's
what it is, man. They have this
yes,
MK Ultra like little sliver of like what they're doing to people, and they expose that. But the reality is, overall, that's what it is.
My
The
mom
whole
got so
thing is that.
brainwashed. It is. My
Yes,
mom got so brainwashed that she actually like she stopped talking to her mom. They started talking, thank God, before my grandma passed away. But even my mom's sister, and she called her names um, because because of who they were voting for. I think it was over Trump and Hillary. I'm not sure. And
right.
it's so because when I mean, and this is what's funny is my mom's had a bunch of different personas. She was not into politics when I was little, like or yeah, like up until even when I lived here the whole time, like politics were blah. And so I don't know. It's just I've seen so many different stages of her, and she always pours her whole heart into these things. And I know really what she's seeking is she's seeking God, but she doesn't realize that. She takes these things and she puts everything into it, and they've all been lies. And when I talk to her about God, like I even just the other day I texted her. I don't. I mean, I know how far I can say because I mean before she at least believed in God, but she's Jewish, so not Jesus. But like now because of CNN and all that stuff, and just the comedians that she holds so high, um who say they're Christian, by the way. That's the funniest part. I realized like one of them says he's a Christian, but he obviously they're not. But anyway, so now God's not real and science is. And I just I can't remember what I was gonna say in that. But yeah, she just oh yeah, she told me because I said something. I was like, oh God, I said, Lord willing, something just small. And she was like, I like hugs, but I don't believe in it was something about hugs, that's right. But then she said, I don't believe in that and I don't believe in fairy dust. Like she's fairy dust.
Oh
And and
wow.
like in my mind, I'm like, I don't believe in fairy dust either. But that's not. But I of course, like he doesn't lead us to even respond to that part, right? But
Yeah,
Right.
I know.
it's just,
Turns it in.
yeah. And she
Yeah.
says these things that she never said before. So now she's this person, and she even like volunteered to work for like Bernie Sanders, and she donates all this money, and like that is who she is, and it's just so
Uh,
sad.
Yeah. And
you
that's
know,
what the world does, man. She's really a victim, you know? Like
She is, and that's what he had to show me because like she can say some pretty harsh things, obviously, and they're not even her own thoughts, but like I just really do realize she's so. I mean, even just now when I was talking to you guys, I never really thought about the fact that wow, she really has been about probably 10 different people, and so that makes me just really want to pray for her right now because that means that she's still not like I know she's not happy because you can't be without God, right? But
mhm.
yeah,
she's been seeking and seeking, but she just will not go to the right source, right? She's turned to so
right.
many things. I think she got to Buddhism at one point. Like she's tried everything except for Jesus.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
There's that. It's like there's so much hope in that though. Like the fact that she is
There
still
is, right?
seeking, because
I
that's like the thing
right.
is like
I know.
whenever when that moment happens, when she's finally burned out and she throws in the towel, like God knows what that moment's gonna be, because obviously like there's only, if she's seeking, there is only one answer. So it's when she gets to that, but she's trying every other door first. Like, nope, I'm not going there yet. So I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here, I'm
Right.
gonna go here, I'm gonna go here, go to this one, go to that one, okay? But and so however long that's going to take, till that pride goes down, to all that stuff, all those walls just finally come down, and then God can finally uh seek come to her in truth, and so that's
Yeah.
the so praise God for that,
Right. There is
at the
exciting and
very
like
least
there's
she's
something it
seeking.
just yeah, it just sparks me. I don't know. It really did. Like it just gives hope, like the fact that because you know what that is, you can try to say it's anything, but when you're seeking and you're that mean to people, then and that's what she's into now. It's been the longest probably, but it also will come to an end. Because I mean the whole system's gonna blow up. So then what? You know? Oh
Yes.
wow, I know what's next.
Yeah.
Jesus, I'm serious. Like
That's
if
right.
you put all of your eggs in this basket and then everything just blows up, then what? Like she's really
Oh,
gonna be.
that's
Huh,
right. When
it's
that
exciting.
finally when that crashes, and I think that's
Yeah.
the exciting part. Like when we talk about Revelation, is like what people have had their hope in, that they think is a sure trust. Like when that finally crumbles and they realize what I've been serving all along is not real. That is that moment where they can finally see God in truth. Because that false reality that they've built on is going to shatter. It is not real, and that is going to get exposed. As light shines
Right.
on it, and we're in the middle of that transition, and that's going to be an incredible moment. That's going to leave a lot of people lost and without compass, and of course it's going to, the Antichrist is going to try and draw that to them, to him, but in the same token, that's where God's hand can just show up in such a mighty and powerful way. And what's exciting about it, it's going to take everybody off the fence, like, oh my gosh, wow, he's been real all along. Forgive me for, believing these lies, or being so indoctrinated in this world, or what I thought was real and true. I had my hope in these politicians, these systems, or whatever this was. Like when they realized this is not reality,
It
praise God,
almost
they can
makes
come to
you
the truth.
wonder what it takes, right? Because, like, I know in 2007, I've always been into conspiracies. That's always been my kind of thing. I've always been kind of a contrarian anyway, you know. But it was like I don't know, 5 years ago, like before Flat Earth, right? That like I'm like, ooh, I'm really craving like conspiracies. I don't know, and then a lot of people I've talked to, right, that have woken up recently, like in this awake, because like I mean, it seems like we all woke up kind of together, like in the same
Yeah.
time frame, it's like wow, like like what is it with these last few years, right? That has really
Yeah.
It's
woken people
God.
up,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
he's
Yes.
God, and
waking us
he knows
up.
what will work, and because that was something, and it's not even like we are into conspiracies, we're into truth. So we always
True.
realize something was wrong, right? Like that's just what they label
Yes.
it. But we were seeking to because you knew something wasn't right. You like just hearing stories and stuff. So you take a jump into the rabbit hole, and you
Right.
realize, wow, that's true. But the only difference is when I first did it. I didn't know God, but I mean I know all this was his plan, like to reveal it exactly how he did. Because I would look and then I would jump out. I would just have cognitive dissonance, pretend it didn't happen because I believed all of it, but it was
Right.
really scary without God. But then whenever he's like, okay, this is real, but so am I, you're like, woo. So the world's a
Right,
lie and you're
right.
real. Yeah.
Woohoo, exactly.
You
That's
know what?
exactly it. Yeah.
I wonder if
Go ahead.
like it's funny because we're so drawn to like it's the same. It seems like the same for us. Like before we came to truth, I was so drawn to conspiracy, same thing, and I was for a long time. Even when I was a kid, there was just something that always gave me goosebumps. I was like, ooh, but I think it's because
Right,
we've always known this place is not our home, and we've always know there's something, there's a deeper truth that we haven't seen yet. And it's like there's something in us internally that knew that before we actually came to the truth. And so
yeah,
that's why
there's
we're like,
something
oh man,
wrong.
and so there is something in conspiracy theories that is seeking outside of what this world would show you on the news, and we know there's something out there, so we're seeking. Wow, yeah, we're digging into it, and we had no idea
Right.
what we were coming
Like,
to, but
what's
now here
really
we are.
going
We're like,
on?
wow, this is why I
Well,
was, right? Yeah, you get through it, you're like, this is the
Well,
reason,
I remember just being a kid, right, Jake? Like being like, 8 years old, right? And I'm like, wait a second, there's 30 kids and one teacher. Like, why are we listening to her? Like, why are we listening? Like, how does that work? Like where we all listen to her, like, yeah, I never understood that. Like, if you want to do something else, you could just do it. And people were just in line and fall in
Mhm.
line just so easily, and I just wasn't that type of person, right? And I'm like, wow, it feels weird. Everything
But
feels
it
weird.
also
Like, why?
shows we were meant to follow somebody. Like he put it in us to follow him,
Yes,
right? So that's
yes,
still in us. And
amen.
that's why, the devil knows how to take a hold of that and just completely, convert it where we're then following people and idolizing people and, until
Yeah,
we reach him. He literally like hijacks that part. And, and it is weird because if you think about it, like why does everybody just go to speed limit? Why does everybody in I mean that alone, like it just shows that there is a God, because
yeah,
for the most part, I know there's people that that don't obey everything, right? But if you look around grocery stores, people wait in line, they all do the same thing. And if we were just some random whatever, people would be running around amok, there'd be just complete chaos. But there's not.
right,
And that's
right,
because we are created, you know? It's
right. Well,
Yeah,
and
it's like
one thing that really got me was like that there's 50% men and 50% women in the world. Like it goes up and down a few percent, right? But like it's pretty much even. Like that number alone being even is like there's some kind of order and
true.
control in that, right? Like because or else it would be like just random. If it was random, it'd be 70% this or whatever, right? It would be some, but everything is so even paired off, right? And you're like,
I didn't
wow, how
know
could
that.
that be perfect? Yeah,
Yeah, I
interesting.
remember reading stories like before, like when I
God's
heard
balance.
like science, yeah, that would talk about how in different places that I guess the balance was way off, but that actually makes sense because that for whatever that's a silly little thing, but it does make it seem less likely that there's a God when things are so, there's 9,000 men and two women. Like it makes God seem less
right,
likely, right? So I
right,
remember
right.
hearing those things, and that's so weird how you just brought that up because even that is tied into it. And how strange is that? That even
Yeah,
just wow, like he literally grabbed every part that we could possibly think to just try to make us not see God, and it's all with
right,
lies too.
right, right.
Intention covering them. Yeah, it's funny. Like, and it's like, the world, like all these things where everything's like perfectly balanced. Everything has what it needs. The world would call that's Mother Nature. It's like, no, that is God. That is God keeping everything in order. It is His creation. Um, and I think,
So
uh,
amazing,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
I can't believe I'm only just, getting involved this like at this moment, right? And of course there's no looking back. There's only looking forward and just being grateful that we are where we are at this point, right? But man, I'll tell you what, man, if we could have just known the truth from the beginning, just how beautiful life would have been. Like if we could have been like Elijah or Enoch or somebody that just knew God from the day one,
but
all
it
through
was
their life.
because now you can look back to it and see how it got you here. So hallelujah.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
all beautiful.
Well, and I'll tell you what, we got to get away with a lot more stuff than they did, probably. It's like maybe this was the wild generation that really got away with some crazy stuff. But not that
Yeah.
that's something to be proud of, but I mean, it is what it is, right? All righty. Well, it's time to hit the old dusty trail. And so, since Stephanie already fell off, poor
Oh,
thing.
oh no.
Thank
Bye,
you,
Stephanie.
Stephanie, thank you, Stephanie, for coming on. It's always a pleasure, and I'm always, grateful for, you know, I'm always grateful for her help with everything,
Absolutely.
And then Jake, absolutely, my brother. Thank you
My
so
eternal
much for
brother.
coming
I love you guys. God bless. Thanks for having us.
on. All right. Praise Jesus for his sacrifice and his grace. All glory to God because he deserves it. And pray for the children, pray for each other, and pray for anyone being victimized. And I will see you. Oh, yeah, Faith, you're on tomorrow if you want. It's up to you. All right. So I'll see you guys tomorrow at, no, today at 4 p.m.